Round 7 of the Formula 1 this weekend was at Monaco, and we had an extremely eventful race. We had a lot of rain, some overtakes, and a lot of drama we are going to be getting through in this video. Now, this was a much more interesting race than we typically see at Monaco, but I'm going to give this race a 4 out of 10, and this is comparing it to the other races we have in the season. I just don't think Monaco can get up there in the 7s and 8s, just because the nature of the track and the lack of overtakes around the circuit. Now I'm going to quickly get into sort of the delayed start. When we were watching, we didn't really know what was happening. The FIA didn't tell us. They said after that it was because they were monitoring a severe, well, they said during that they were monitoring a severe downpour due to safety concerns, and then it came out that apparently there was a failure with the lights, and that was sort of a cover, as there was not much rain scheduled further. Then we had drivers waiting in the grid when there was very little rain on track, and I think it has been perfect conditions to race on those wet tyres, and it probably would have helped the driving, and it probably would have helped track conditions getting drivers out on those tyres to clear some of the water. Eventually the drivers came out, and they came out behind the safety car, and it started raining really heavy. The race got red flagged and went back into the pits. We eventually waited, I think it was about 20 minutes before the race started on lap 2, just due to a lack of time, and it was a rolling start behind the safety car. The first thing that I wanted to cover in this was the TV direction. Now, I know the Formula 1 have been getting a lot of stick for the TV direction, but they don't actually manage this race. It's one of the rare occasions where Monaco themselves do the TV direction for this race, probably because it's extremely tricky to sort of set up the angles around this track. And yeah, I thought it was extremely poor again. The amount of yellow flags that were sort of popping up on screen, and we weren't shown any action, even for sort of minutes, and then eventually, yeah, we weren't even shown some of the replays for any of it. We didn't see what happened to Kevin Magnussen until his teammate Mick Schumacher split his car in half. I think that was poor, and yeah, there was just a lot of instances. Tsunoda going off at turn 1 and dropping down the field, and we didn't even see it happen. I think this could have been improved massively. Another thing was, I'll get into this a bit further, but Albon ignoring blue flags. He was holding up Leclerc for almost a lap. He didn't seem to get penalised for this at all. And the other thing was Fernando Alonso. Now, he was told by his engineer to manage his tyres, so I think he was sort of taking the piss completely here and decides to basically drive 3 seconds a lap slower than Norris, and even the cars behind him couldn't get past. Don't know whether this was to sort of show that he doesn't think Monaco is suitable on this calendar, or just to show that you can do this, as he eventually did catch up because his tyres were so sort of fresh at the end of the race because he was driving so slow on them. But yeah, I think this is a sort of a funny moment of the race, and I think it shows the difficulties of Monaco as a track. It is being renewed, well, the contract expires this year. This was the last race in the contract, so whether it is renewed or not is still up for debate. So moving on to the driver ratings, I'm going to give Charles a 9 out of 10. He had an amazing qualifying, started the race on pole, and just got extremely unlucky with the weather. Ferrari strategist again messing up. I think they're completely to blame for this. Clearly wasn't the best strategy to go onto the inters just before the track was about to dry up. And yeah, I don't think there's much you could do. Potentially you could have overruled it like Sainz did, but yeah, pretty faultless Grand Prix from Charles. Extremely lucky to finish in 4th, not even on the podium. Now, where Sainz didn't have the pace of Charles, I think he had the experience, and that's why I'm going to give him the same rating, a 9 out of 10. Around Monaco, you know that the only thing that matters is track position. you can have, well, Fernando Alonso showed you can be 3 seconds a lap slower, if not more, and there's still no way of passing. There was drivers on hard tyres, inters and wets on the same time, and we weren't seeing any overtakes. So this just shows how tricky it is. The engineers tried to get Sainz to come in, and Sainz said no, there's no point. Why would he drop back for a faster tyre when all that matters is the track position? And this ended up paying off for Sainz, which I think was an extremely good call. And as his driving's been a little bit shaky this season, he looked really solid this weekend. And yeah, good call from Sainz. Now, this was the first weekend easily this season, and if not for the past maybe 2 years, where Verstappen just wasn't on the pace all weekend. Practice, he didn't seem to get on it. And then qualifying, he was on a fast lap when Perez went into the wall, which he was extremely unlucky with. But yeah, didn't really have much to do with the strategy either. Was behind Perez when he came in for the double stack, so he sort of came up behind him. But yeah, I don't think Verstappen's got anything to worry about. He's still leading the Drivers' Championship and picked up a good amount of points. But yeah, just probably quite a frustrating weekend for Verstappen, as he knew sitting behind Sainz there was not much he could do for the whole race. Now Sergio, I'm going to give him a 10 out of 10. Faultless weekend for Perez. Didn't have the pace in quali, but definitely made up for it in the race. Sort of going through the strategy, his engineer on lap 14, Perez told his engineer that the track is definitely ready for inters. And this is when Gasly was on the inters and Ricciardo was on the wets, and he somehow managed to get past him on the turn before Rasgas. I don't think I've ever seen an overtake here before. So yeah, Perez pits for inters on lap 16, where Leclerc and Verstappen pit on lap 19. So this overcut worked perfectly. He had 3 laps on the inters, came out ahead. So yeah, this was a good strategy from Red Bull. And there were sort of 2 schools of thought here during this race. It started off on a very wet track and it dried quite fast. So the first was, everyone was on the wets. Do you wait for the track to dry, lose a bit of time on that crossover period on the wets while you're waiting for the track to dry, and then move straight onto slicks and gain that time without having a pit stop? Or do you pit early on the inters and build up a bit of a gap on that preferred track where it's sort of mid-wet and dry? Now, a lot of drivers sort of did neither. They waited till the track was almost dry, pitted onto inters for sort of 3 or 4 laps, and then put hards on straight away. And this is where a lot of the drivers lost a lot of sort of position and time, sort of thinking Leclerc and Verstappen. So yeah, really good weekend from Checo. Great to see him win a race, and yeah, he's up there in the drivers now. He's quite close to Leclerc, so this will be interesting to see going forward, if he could be a favourite for the championship. Not a great weekend for Hamilton, but yeah, not awful either. Qualified 8th, finished 8th. Had a bit of an incident with Ocon. I think he was unlucky with Ocon sort of turning in on him, who eventually got penalised. But yeah, this damaged Hamilton's front wing, which wasn't ideal. I'm going to give him a 6 out of 10. It was sort of quite an average performance. But yeah, he needed to qualify much higher with a chance to sort of get any more decent points. There wasn't much he could do in the race from Hamilton this weekend. Another great weekend from Russell, finishing 5th in the top 5 again. Qualified 6th, gained a position on Lando with the strategy. And yeah, solid weekend from Russell. He's got to be the most consistent driver out there at the moment, consistently picking up points. And you've got to think, if Mercedes can get his car as quick as the Red Bull, he's probably got to be a favourite at the moment for the championship. But yeah, it's just a matter of if they can get that car. It'll be interesting to see next weekend or the following race at Baku, if his pace is there. But yeah, solid weekend from Russell. And yeah, just got to keep it up. He's really sort of overperforming on Hamilton at the moment. So it'll be interesting to sort of follow these two for the next few races. Another good weekend from Lando. Still wasn't feeling 100%, but he was clearly feeling much better than last weekend at Spain. Going to give him an 8 out of 10. Really strong qualified 5th, but then dropped a position to Russell in the race due to sort of poor strategy calls. He was another one of the drivers that for some reason came onto the inters when the track was almost dry, and ended up doing sort of 3 laps on them, which just seems completely pointless. I think Lando could have put the hards on quite easily and held off the drivers behind him. But yeah, it's easy to say in hindsight. I think they were predicting a bit more rain to come, which didn't. So yeah, that's probably the reason a lot of the drivers put the inters on when the track was sort of almost dry. He's got finishing 6th. He's really outshining Ricciardo at the moment. And yeah, I think he's one of my drivers of the season so far, consistently getting that McLaren up there. And yeah, I just hope that McLaren gets a bit more competitive over the second half of the season. Now, I gave Ricciardo a 3 out of 10 last weekend in Spain, as yeah, he just didn't show much passion with his defending, no overtakes. It's just really poor from him as a whole, and just seemed really off the pace this whole weekend. I'm going to give him a 3 out of 10 again. He finished actually lower than last weekend, qualified in 14th, so yeah, just getting sort of bottom of Q2, and only gained a position up to 13th in the race. Difficult, because if you have a difficult qualifying, yeah, you're not going to get much positions gained in the race. Could have gone with a bold strategy, didn't, and I think this probably affected him. He had nothing to lose in 14th, and having one of the quicker cars. And yeah, he got overtaken by Gasly when the track was wet. Sort of Gasly went off the dry old racing line on the corner before Raskas. So yeah, I don't know why he let him pass there. It's an extremely easy place to defend. But yeah, Ricciardo needs to step it up at Baku. There seems to be sort of pressure looming over him that wasn't there last season. I think this season, knowing that him and Lando sort of first year in that car, and a lot of McLaren talent waiting to come in, and other drivers sort of ready to take the next step into Formula 1, yeah, he is probably one of the drivers that I don't think is going to be on the grid next season, but clearly I'd love him to be here because he's one of my favourites. Great weekend for Alonso, qualified 7th, finished race 7th. Yeah, for that, Alpine, really solid weekend with the sort of shithousery that he was just holding up the whole grid by 30 seconds for no reason whatsoever really, and then at the end of the race decided to just close the gap really easily. Not much to say, sort of quiet from Alonso. I don't think we saw him much on the race, but yeah, solid weekend, and definitely up there in the points is where I expect him now, if he can sort of have this reliability with the car, and start getting a few more points than Ocon has been doing. Now, if you watched some of my videos, I think Ocon has probably been the overperformer of the season. I think he has got the most points sort of out of the level of car that he's in. He's been finishing in sort of the upper midfield, getting a solid amount of points every race. But yeah, this was definitely his poorest weekend this year, and I'm going to give him a 5 out of 10. Qualified 10th, which was not bad, but yeah, finished racing 12th. Had that penalty which dropped him down to 12th after turning on Hamilton. I think it was definitely his fault. And yeah, it was just a little bit sort of reckless, but yeah, I don't think there's anything to be too concerned about. I'm still really impressed with Ocon this season. And I think now the Alpine have got a solid car. I think they're going to challenge McLaren a lot more in the next few races. Now, there were a lot of people after Spain looking at the Sector 3 times around that slow section, calling out Bottas to be on the podium, getting pole, sort of finishing up there. But yeah, the Alfa Romeo's pace wasn't there this weekend. It wasn't awful, but yeah, qualifying 12th, finishing the race in 9th. Another sort of solid drive from Bottas. He's definitely sort of a safe pair of hands in that car, and yeah, he's it's showing where the potential is. If Zhou is a rookie, he's an extremely good comparison to compare him against at the moment. So yeah, solid weekend from Bottas. Now, first thing with Zhou is that amazing save he had going down into the Nouvelle chicane. He was almost at 90 degrees and he was spinning all over the place, but yeah, he managed to catch it, which his team would have been massively relieved about. Qualified, yeah, 20th. I'm not sure if he missed his last lap or not, but yeah, not great qualifying when your teammates qualifying in 12th, and finishing race in 16th, which was second to last with the 3 DNFs. But he got around Monaco without any damage. I don't think the team are going to be too disappointed with him with that result. He's got a lot of laps under him, and yeah, I think he can carry forward this momentum into Baku and hopefully deliver some points and show the sort of pace he was showing at the start of the season before, yeah, he started getting that really bad luck. Another extremely weekend for Magnussen and Haas as a whole. DNF'd from a reliability issue. I think it was a coolant problem or a water leak. But yeah, qualified 13th, so yeah, not as strong as some of his other performances this season. So I'm going to give him a 5 out of 10, but yeah, not massive amounts to note. I just think sort of the pace that Haas showed at the start of the season, I feel like they've lost a lot of points due to sort of errors, crashes and reliability issues. So yeah, I think their main focus is to just get through races without silly mistakes and crashes, and to just pick up some points because they've lost a lot of positions and points this year so far already. So on to the other Haas driver of Mick Schumacher. I'm going to give him a 3 out of 10. Relatively strong qualifying, 15th, still slower than Magnussen, but yeah, had that incident. I'm glad he's okay. It looked quite a bad crash, but yeah, I think it probably looked worse than it was due to the sort of gearbox snapping off. They're meant to do this sort of saves the gearbox completely breaking if you can get like a clean snap in a certain area. And it just breaks off, yeah, this will save some of the other parts in the car. You don't want it all getting mangled into one big piece. So yeah, they're designed to do that, but yeah, it's still not nice to see. And yeah, I was extremely concerned for Mick when he hit that barrier. I think it was just his fault. I think he just lost it through that section. But yeah, he needs that focus. The team cannot be having a lot more of these crashes because in this new cost cap era, they just physically can't afford it. And I've seen a few things saying Gunter has given Mick his first warning. So yeah, he needs to be really careful going forward. And next weekend being Baku, it's quite easy to damage your car. So yeah, he's going to have a stressful weekend next weekend. Another thing with the FIA was when he hit that barrier, Tech Pro barrier, like, why would they bring out a virtual safety car? You know that it's going to be in red flag no matter what. They need to get a crane on there to lift it off. Minimum a full safety car so they can get all the cars grouped up together so they can clear that debris. But I don't know why they go through this procedure of bringing out a virtual safety car for a lap, having 2 laps in the safety car, and then red flagging it. I don't know if it was a time concern, they want to get cars still going around the track. But yeah, it's just, it makes no sense to me. When you see that, it's an instant red flag, send all the drivers back to the pits. Having a virtual safety car isn't going to solve anything. It's happened in all the other races where there was a big crash this season. So yeah, I'm not sure they're doing this, but yeah, it's just sort of baffling me. Now, Gasly is probably up there with one of my drivers of the day. I'm going to give him a 9 out of 10. He was sent out on qualifying and he literally missed his qualifying lap by about a second. He was going through the line when it went red, so he was extremely lucky, as I think he would have easily gotten out of Q1. But yeah, he pitted for Inters on lap 3, and this paid off. He got couple good overtakes on Joe and Ricciardo, which is extremely impressive in the wet around Monaco. And yeah, ended up finishing 11th, no points, but I think this is a sort of really, this is the Gasly we see last year, sort of really putting it out there. And yeah, I hope he can keep up this form to fight for the points rather than fighting from the back. But yeah, I think strong weekend from Gasly and much better than he's been performing recently. Now, this AlphaTauri clearly had pace because Yuki came 11th in qualifying, which is extremely impressive. He's really stepped up this season, not only his pace, but in terms of his reliability and yeah, just sort of not making as many errors, but that was not the case this weekend. I'm going to give him a 3 out of 10. He made so many mistakes. Yeah, he seemed to go off at turn 1 every lap. He started 11th, so if he just had a good strategy like Gasly and copied Gasly with the inters early, I think he could have really got into the points and finished well. But yeah, this sort of reminded me of the Yuki last year, showing good pace, but yeah, making errors. Where I think a positive to take was he didn't have a big crash this weekend. So yeah, I think that's always a bonus this season with the cost cap. So I think his team will take that as a positive. But yeah, not a great weekend from Yuki, lots of errors. Now, another thing that I sort of speaking at earlier that was not shown in the race was Alex Albon. Now, I didn't see this in the race, but I looked back and he was ahead of Leclerc for a whole lap. And he drove past about 16 blue wave flags, with Leclerc right behind him, and he just wouldn't let him pass. He didn't pull over once, he stuck on the racing line. And yeah, he came out after this weekend and he said that the reason he didn't move over was because it'd be faster for both of them if Leclerc to stay behind. Now yeah, I don't think this is Albon's choice to sort of make that call. If you're getting a blue wave flag, you're being directed to let the car through, and then if you can re-overtake that car, by all means go for it. But yeah, if there's a car coming up behind you and has caught you, he should let him past. So I thought this was a bit sort of poor of Albon. So I'm going to give him a 2 out of 10. He had a DNF from mechanical, but yeah, qualified 16th. And yeah, he was saying in post-race interviews that yeah, just a messy weekend, not anything to worry about, nothing to sort of really take home, just yeah, not a good weekend for him. But yeah, I'm sure he's got a lot of positives this season so far, and there's a lot of positives that I think he'll take forward for the rest of the season. Nicholas Latifi qualifying 19th at the back again, and yeah, come up to 15th in the race. There's 3 DNFs, and he managed to get ahead of Sonoda, just because yeah, the amount of errors he made. Wasn't a great weekend from Latifi. He did well to keep his car in one piece, but yeah, nearly went off on the formation lap, which he was saying his car wouldn't turn, but yeah, I think there was nothing wrong with it. He stayed out after replacing the front wing, and I think he just had a bit of a lock-up and sort of panicked under that safety car. But yeah, I think the Williams could have gone a bit bolder on strategy. They sort of played it safe like everyone else did at the back. But yeah, when you're at the back of the grid in one of the slowest cars, you don't have much motivation to race for in Monaco. So yeah, quite a quiet weekend from the Astons. I'm going to give Vettel a 6 out of 10. Qualified 9th, which I think is probably one of their strongest qualifying results this season, and then just dropped to place to 10th in the race. They're looking a bit quicker. I don't know if that is because the big upgrades package they've got, they're sort of understanding it more. But yeah, not really too much to say on Vettel. Solid performance, but yeah, I think they'll be looking to sort of push this package in Baku in a few weeks. Lance Stroll, similar to Vettel, not much to write home about. Qualified much lower in 18th, 9 places off his teammate. yeah, finishing the race in 14th. Didn't see too many incidents. He had that incident on lap 1 where he skidded off and got a puncture. Yeah, I think this could have been a good chance to put on inters or something, but yeah, chose not to straight away. So yeah, not much to say about Stroll this weekend. So let's go for my driver of the day, and it is going to be Checo. Played a blinder of a strategy and yeah, won the race on a pair of mediums that were absolutely falling apart. But yeah, he had the track position, and yeah, great result from Checo this weekend. Loser has to be Charles. Qualified pole, absolutely amazing qualifying performance. And yeah, I think if we had a dry race, he would have been almost guaranteed to win it. But the Ferrari strategist once again messing up. And yeah, he is extremely angry during the race when he was came into pit and double stacked behind Sainz. Yeah, I wouldn't have wanted to be in that debrief room, to be honest. Team win, gonna go with the Red Bulls. Pretty solid weekend, to be honest. I don't think they were expecting a 1-3 finish because the Ferraris were so dominant, but yeah, I think they would take that before the weekend comfortably. Verstappen is clear in the drivers, and they're also clear in the constructors, so they're leading both championships. And Checo's catching up to Leclerc in the drivers, so that'll be an interesting thing to keep an eye on over the next few races, because yeah, if Checo can catch up to Max or get past Leclerc, will team orders come into play a bit more than they have done last season. And my team L is Ferrari. Just for Charles, I think it's extremely annoying and frustrating. They messed up a strategy, and it would have been great to see him win the Monaco Grand Prix, because yeah, he deserved it. So a quick look through the standings. Latifi and Schumacher are the only two drivers yet to score another point. Zhou on the 1 point still, in 18th, with Stroll on just the 2. Albon still doing well in 16th. Vettel with 5 points. Gasly with 6 points. I think he's going to, hopefully pick up a bit over these next few races. Alonso P13. Tsunoda doing extremely well in P12. Daniel Ricciardo only on 11 points. Lando's nearly got, he's got over 4 times the amount of points as him already this season, and I can only expect that's going to get bigger. So yeah, really poor from Ricciardo. Magnussen's 10th, but only on 15 points. With the pace that Haas has had, it's almost as quick as the McLaren, I think, if not quicker on some tracks. He's going to be extremely disappointed with the lack of points he's picked up. Ocon doing extremely well on 30 points. He's been sort of finishing solidly in the points this season. Bottas doing well in the Alfa Romeo. Lando's mentioned before, he's always finishing behind those 3 fast teams like McLaren, Mercedes, Red Bull and Ferrari. He's always there or thereabouts to sort of pick up the points, and yeah, there's nowhere he can sort of gain more places on them just because their car's so much quicker. Hamilton sort of last in that top 3, only on 50 points. I think he's got the pace. We showed that in Spain. So on an open track, I think he's going to get a few more podiums and hopefully some wins this season. Carlos Sainz, solid weekend, but yeah, he's still at the bottom, sort of the back. He's behind Russell, sort of on the same amount of points, and he's got a car that's clearly much faster, and without some mistakes, he would probably be ahead of Checo. So yeah, he needs to pick that up. Russell doing extremely well in that Mercedes, the most consistent driver on the grid this season. Perez catching up to Leclerc after that win. Leclerc P2 after a disappointing weekend, and Verstappen leading the Drivers' Championship. So next race weekend will be at Baku. So I'll be doing another reaction to that video. So yeah, if you like this video, if you could drop a like and a comment, that would help massively. And if you haven't subscribed, if you could, that would help the channel to grow also. So yeah, thanks for watching to the end, and I'll be uploading a few more videos this week, so stick around. Cheers.